Okay, we're now going to look at our strap connectors. Now you have two options for strap connectors. You can either use 1 inch wide or 3/4 inch wide. And you're going to cut your strap connectors, 4 of them, and they've got curved ends on both ends. Now this bag has already been bagged by my sister before I've even made it, and she's requested that she has angular ends as opposed to curved ends because I don't know if you can even see that, but the faux leather's got a sort of an angular design on it. So I've just cut the ends of my faux leather a slightly different shape. So you will have 2 that are matching, and you're going to lay them wrong sides together. But on one of them, you're going to cut 1 inch from the end. So let me just, and I've trimmed off 1 inch off of the end of one side. So you can see that that's gone. And you can use those bits for backing hardware or anything like that. So let me just, have I got glue here? I have got glue here. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue to hold the 2 panels together. Now, if you're worried about your strap connectors not being strong enough, you can always add a little bit of ribbon inside. Just, oh golly, why do they always get so much of this muck all over them? So you could put a little strip of ribbon that sits within the outside edge of your strap connector. You could add a little bit of ribbon there that will just strengthen your strap connector. These are only 2 layers thick. But let me just squeeze out my, it takes ages for the glue to get down to the bottom. So I'm just going to pop a little drop, not masses, just enough glue to kind of hold them in place. I'll do both at the same time. Now if you wanted to, these are raw edge, so you've got the option for edge painting, edge coating, or as I've done, I've used just a black Sharpie on the edges just to make sure that the edges are not, you can see the backing on my faux leather is grey. So I'm just going to match up the bottom angled edge. Just got a little bit of fluff there that needs to come out. Matching all the sides. And I'm going to do exactly the same with the second strap connector. This is thick faux leather, so I don't need anything extra in there to give it any strength. I haven't made a very good job of cutting that one, so I'm just going to trim that a little bit and just use my Sharpie to make sure that none of that grey backing is showing, and I will do that again once I've stitched it. So what we're going to do is we're going to start stitching 1 1/4 inches from the end that doesn't have that extra bit in it, so 1/4 inch down from that line there, and I'm going to use a long thread on the top and the bottom. Just measure my 1 1/4 inches because I can't actually see on this. Let's put that over there. And you're going to top stitch around the outside edge, so from 1 1/4 inches from the end which has got only single layer to 1 1/4 inches from the end on the opposite side. So you're just going to go around the outside edge using a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, leaving a long thread at the beginning and the end, because we're going to tie up our threads. And you're going to come up to the same point on the other side of your connector. And you're going to raise your needle pull your work out. Whoop, that's my thread just flown off of my small pin. Let's just pop that back on again. Not quite sure why I did that. So now you can see we have these long threads on the front and the back. And I'm going to take a self-threading needle and I'm going to take the threads from the front through the last hole to the back of my work. Whoops, can't get hold of it. I'm going to tie those off. So I'm tying the thread from the front and the thread from the back. Just doing a couple of knots. And then I'm just going to trim those down to approximately 1/4 of an inch. And do exactly the same thing on the other side. Trim them down to 1/4 of an inch. And you can either use a glue stick or a little bit of ordinary glue and just kind of give them a little tiny bit of glue just to make sure that they don't poke out. You won't see this part, so don't worry about that. It just kind of keeps the ends contained, and you can see there that we have the stitching, and the stitching starts 1/4 of an inch from that top straight edge, and that's one connector completed. Now you can, as I say, do edge paint on the outside if you want to. I'm going to continue and do the same thing with this one. Again, long threads at the beginning and the end. Just adding that little bit of glue means that these two panels don't move as you're stitching them. And you don't end up with sort of bits of fabric from the back panel showing on the front. And you can hand crank around the corners or the curves if you choose to do corners on the bottom like I've done. And that was only because it was a request from the person that's decided she wants this bag. And again, raise your needle, pull your work out. Self-threading, you don't have to use a self-threading needle, you can use an ordinary needle. I just find it easier to use these. And they're not everybody's cup of tea, but I love them. I don't know that I could be messing about threading up an ordinary needle every time I bury a thread. Just saves time. And again, you're going back in through the very last stitch hole so that there's no obvious finish to your stitching. There's no kind of back stitching, and that's what we don't want because these will be visible on the side of your bag. Tying off. Trimming. And then just a little tiny drop of glue to hold those secure. So you could use a glue stick if you wanted to. I've only used this because I've got it here. Before you go any further, let that glue dry because you don't really want it to stick to anything. So there we go, we have our 2 strap connectors completed. I'm going to put those aside until we get to the stage where we need to fit them.